What if I told you that the secret to unshakable happiness was discovered over 2,000 years ago by a Roman emperor who ruled the most powerful empire in history, yet spent his nights writing personal notes about pain, loss, and the meaning of life? Welcome, dear listeners, to Think Like a Roman Emperor, the podcast where ancient wisdom meets modern living. I'm your host, Lena, and today we're diving deep into one of the most transformative philosophical principles ever conceived, why virtue is the ultimate good, and how this single idea can revolutionize your entire approach to happiness, success, and resilience. Whether you're stuck in traffic, working out at the gym, or taking a peaceful walk, you're about to discover why millions of people worldwide, from Silicon Valley CEOs to Navy SEALs, are turning to Stoic philosophy not as an escape from reality, but as the ultimate toolkit for thriving in our chaotic, fast-paced world. In the next 20 minutes, we'll uncover why money, fame, and even health are actually morally neutral, how a Roman emperor used philosophy to manage chronic pain and the pressures of ruling an empire, and most importantly, how you can apply these timeless principles to build unshakable inner peace and emotional resilience, starting today. So, grab your coffee, settle in, and let's begin this journey together. Because by the end of this episode, you'll understand why virtue isn't just some abstract moral concept. It's your pathway to a life of genuine fulfillment and unbreakable strength. Part 1. The precious gem of life, understanding true virtue. Picture this. You're scrolling through social media at 2 a.m., watching highlight reels of people's perfect lives, expensive cars, exotic vacations, and achievements. You feel that familiar pang. Maybe it's envy, maybe it's inadequacy, maybe it's the crushing weight of comparison. Sound familiar? Now, imagine a different scenario. You're the most powerful person in the world. You have unlimited wealth, armies at your command, and the ability to fulfill any desire instantly. Yet every night, you sit down and write in your journal about how these external things mean nothing compared to your character and moral choices. This wasn't fiction. This was the reality of Marcus Aurelius, Roman emperor from 161 to 180 AD, and one of history's greatest Stoic philosophers. Here's the revolutionary insight that changed everything for Marcus and can change everything for you. Virtue is the ultimate good. Everything else is morally neutral. Wait, what does that even mean in practical terms? Let's break this down with a modern example. Imagine you have $10 million in your bank account. Is that money inherently good or bad? Well, you could use it to build schools, fund medical research, or help struggling families. That's virtuous. Or you could use it for corruption, exploitation, or destructive purposes. That's vicious. The money itself, completely neutral. Its moral value depends entirely on the character of the person wielding it. The same principle applies to health, relationships, social status, and even suffering. None of these things can make you a better or worse person by themselves. Only your response to them, your choices about how to use them, and the character you display in handling them determines their moral value. Marcus Aurelius, despite dealing with chronic pain and the immense pressures of ruling an empire during plague and war, never let external circumstances define his worth or happiness. In his personal journal, which we now know as Meditations, he wrote, "Pain is just a troubling sensation in the body. It cannot make me a better or worse person, but how I respond to it can." This brings us to the 4 cardinal virtues that formed the foundation of Stoic philosophy. Wisdom, the ability to make rational, logical decisions that benefit yourself and others. It's about understanding what's in your control versus what's not, and acting accordingly. Justice, treating all people with fairness, respect, and dignity. recognizing that we're part of a larger human community and have responsibilities to contribute positively to it. Courage, not the absence of fear, but the willingness to do what's right despite fear, adversity, or failure. It's acting with integrity when it's difficult or costly. Temperance, self-discipline and moderation, the ability to control impulses and avoid the trap of instant gratification that often leads to long-term dissatisfaction. When the Stoics talk about living in harmony with nature, they don't mean hugging trees, though that's nice too. They mean living according to our highest nature as rational social beings. When we act with wisdom, justice, courage, and temperance, we're expressing the best version of ourselves, regardless of external circumstances. This is why virtue is the ultimate good. It's the only thing that's entirely within your control. It improves not just your life, but the lives of others, and it creates lasting fulfillment rather than temporary pleasure. Part 2. The path to true happiness and emotional resilience. Now, here's where things get really interesting, and where Stoicism completely flips our modern understanding of happiness on its head. We've been conditioned to think happiness comes from getting what we want. The promotion, the relationship, the house, the vacation, the likes on our posts. But what happens when we get these things? There's a brief spike of pleasure, and then we need the next thing. It's like being on an emotional roller coaster that never stops. Marcus Aurelius saw this pattern clearly. He had everything: absolute power, wealth beyond imagination, respect, and adoration. Yet he chose to step off that roller coaster entirely. He understood that true happiness isn't an emotion created by external circumstances, but a state of inner peace that comes from living with integrity and virtue. Let me share a technique that Marcus used, which modern psychology has validated as incredibly effective. It's called separating value judgments from emotions. Here's how it works. When something difficult happens, let's say you lose a job, your immediate reaction might be to judge it as terrible, catastrophic, or unfair. These judgments create layers of emotional suffering on top of the basic facts of the situation. But what if you approached it like Marcus did with his chronic pain? Instead of calling it unbearable or horrible, he would simply observe it as a difficult sensation in the body. By removing the dramatic value judgments, he removed much of the emotional suffering while keeping his ability to respond rationally intact. This isn't about becoming emotionally numb. It's about becoming emotionally intelligent. You still feel the disappointment of losing a job, but you don't add layers of catastrophic thinking that make it worse than it actually is. You can then use your rational mind to ask, what opportunities does this create? What can I learn? How can I respond in a way that builds my character? Modern cognitive behavioral therapy calls this cognitive distancing, and it's one of the most effective techniques for building emotional resilience. The Stoics figured this out 2,000 years ago. Marcus practiced what he called the geography of pain. When he experienced physical discomfort, he would consciously try to keep it localized. If his leg hurt, he wouldn't let that pain spread to affect his entire body or mental state. He would acknowledge it, accept it, and then focus on what he could control, his response. Here's a powerful question Marcus would ask himself, and one you can use. Is this situation within my control or outside my control? If it's outside your control, other people's opinions, the weather, past mistakes, future uncertainties, then worrying about it is not just useless, it's counterproductive. If it is within your control, then you can take action. This simple framework has helped millions of people reduce anxiety, overcome depression, and build the kind of unshakable confidence that comes from focusing your energy where it can actually make a difference. The ancient Greek philosopher Epictetus, who was a slave before becoming one of Rome's greatest teachers, put it perfectly. It's not what happens to you, but how you react to it that matters. But here's the beautiful part. When you stop trying to control everything outside yourself and focus on developing your character, something magical happens. You become more influential, more attractive to others, and more effective in all areas of life. Not because you're trying to achieve these things, but because virtue naturally creates positive outcomes. This is what the Stoics called the discipline of desire, wanting what you have rather than having what you want. It's the secret to contentment in any circumstance. Part 3, Practical Stoicism, your daily toolkit for virtue. All right, let's get practical. Stoicism isn't meant to be philosophy you admire from a distance. It's a way of life, a daily practice. Marcus Aurelius didn't just think about these ideas, he lived them every single day while managing one of history's most demanding jobs. So how do you actually implement virtue-based living in your modern life? Here are 5 powerful techniques that Marcus and other Stoics used, adapted for your daily routine. Technique number 1, the role model method. Marcus Aurelius had mentors and role models throughout his life, people like Apollonius and Junius Rusticus, who embodied Stoic virtues. When facing difficult decisions, Marcus would ask himself, how would my most admired teacher handle this situation? You can do the same. Choose someone you deeply respect for their character. It could be a historical figure like Marcus Aurelius or Nelson Mandela, a contemporary person like a mentor or family member, or even a fictional character who embodies virtue. The key is choosing someone based on their moral character, not their achievements or status. Daily practice. Each evening, ask yourself, did I live up to the standards of the person I most admire today? What would they have done differently in the situations I faced? This isn't about self-judgment. It's about continuous growth and maintaining high standards for yourself. Technique number 2, voluntary hardship. This might sound counterintuitive in our comfort-obsessed culture, but hear me out. Stoics believed in deliberately experiencing small discomforts when life is easy, so you're prepared when life gets genuinely difficult. Marcus would sleep on hard surfaces sometimes, even though he had access to the finest beds in the empire. Modern practitioners might take cold showers, fast occasionally, or walk instead of driving when possible. The purpose isn't self-punishment, it's building resilience, appreciating what you have, and proving to yourself that discomfort won't destroy you. When real hardship comes, you'll be mentally prepared rather than overwhelmed. Daily practice. Choose one small voluntary discomfort each day. Skip the elevator and take the stairs. Take a cold shower. Eat a simple meal instead of ordering takeout. The goal is building your discomfort tolerance muscle. Technique number 3, the consequence visualization. When you're tempted to act against your values, whether it's losing your temper, making a purchase you can't afford, or avoiding a difficult conversation, pause and visualize 2 futures. Path A, you give in to the impulse. Where does this lead in a week, a month, a year? What kind of person are you becoming through these choices? Path B, you choose the virtuous response. How do you feel about yourself? What kind of character are you building? What positive ripple effects might this create? Marcus regularly practiced this kind of long-term thinking. He would remind himself that anger might feel good in the moment, but it always creates more problems than it solves. Daily practice? Before making any significant decision, especially when emotions are high, take 60 seconds to visualize both paths and their likely consequences. Technique number 4, the plague scale reality check. When you're upset about something, ask yourself, on a scale of 1 to 10, where 10 is the worst thing that could possibly happen to a human being, where does this actually rank? Usually, our daily frustrations rank somewhere between 1 and 3, but we react to them like they're 8s or 9s. This technique helps you respond proportionally to actual problems rather than letting minor inconveniences hijack your entire day. Marcus dealt with real 8s and 9s, plague, war, betrayal, chronic pain. Yet he maintained perspective by regularly asking himself, is this truly unbearable or just uncomfortable? Daily practice? When you notice yourself getting disproportionately upset about something, use the 1 to 10 scale. It's remarkably effective for maintaining perspective. Technique number 5, the strengths inventory. Instead of focusing on what's going wrong, regularly remind yourself of your resources, skills, and previous successes in handling challenges. What got you through difficult times before? What support systems do you have? What have you learned that applies to your current situation? Marcus would often write about the virtues he saw in others and the strengths he could draw upon. This wasn't toxic positivity, it was strategic thinking about how to handle challenges effectively. Daily practice? Keep a strengths journal. Each week, write down 3 resources you have for handling whatever challenges you're facing. This builds confidence and reminds you that you're more capable than you might feel in difficult moments. These aren't just mental exercises. They're practical tools for building the kind of character that creates genuine happiness and resilience. The more you practice them, the more natural virtuous responses become, until living with wisdom, justice, courage, and temperance becomes your default mode, rather than something you have to think about. Part 4. Living in harmony with nature. The Stoic way of life. When Stoics talk about living in harmony with nature, they're not necessarily talking about spending more time outdoors, though that's wonderful too. They're talking about something much more profound. Living according to your essential nature as a rational, social being. Think about it this way. A tree doesn't struggle to be a tree. It grows toward the light, extends its roots, produces fruit. It fulfills its nature effortlessly. Similarly, when we live according to our highest nature, using reason, treating others with justice, acting with courage, and practicing self-discipline, we experience a kind of effortless flow, even in the midst of challenges. Marcus Aurelius understood this deeply. Despite facing the pressures of governing an empire during one of its most turbulent periods, dealing with plague, war, and political intrigue, he maintained his inner peace by constantly returning to this principle. Am I living according to my true nature as a rational, virtuous being? Here's where this gets really practical for your daily life. Living in harmony with nature means accepting the things you cannot change while taking full responsibility for the things you can. It means understanding that suffering is often caused not by events themselves, but by our resistance to reality. Let me share a story that illustrates this perfectly. Marcus lost several children during his lifetime, a devastating experience for any parent. Yet in his writings, we see him practicing what the Stoics called the discipline of assent. He loved his children deeply, but he also accepted that all things in nature are temporary. He wrote about learning to love without attachment to outcomes, to give fully without trying to control results. This might sound cold or detached, but it's actually the opposite. When you're not constantly fighting against reality, when you're not exhausting yourself trying to control things outside your influence, you have much more energy and emotional availability for what actually matters: your relationships, your growth, your contribution to the world. Here's a powerful reframe that can change your entire approach to challenges. Instead of asking, "Why is this happening to me?" start asking, "How can I use this situation to practice virtue?" Lost your job? This is an opportunity to practice courage in facing uncertainty and wisdom in planning your next steps. Dealing with a difficult person? This is a chance to practice patience and justice. Facing a health challenge? This is an opportunity to practice acceptance and to discover inner resources you didn't know you had. Marcus called this the discipline of perception, training yourself to see every situation as an opportunity to grow in character rather than just as something happening to you. The 4 disciplines of daily Stoic living. 1. The discipline of perception, how you see and interpret events. Are you looking for opportunities to practice virtue, or just focusing on what's inconvenient or unfair? 2. The discipline of action, how you respond to situations. Are you acting with wisdom, justice, courage, and temperance? Or are you just reacting emotionally? 3. The discipline of will, what you choose to want or not want. Are you desiring things within your control, your character, your effort, your responses, or things outside your control, other people's behavior, outcomes, circumstances? 4. The discipline of acceptance, how you relate to the natural order of things, including change, loss, and impermanence. Are you fighting against reality or working skillfully within it? When you align these 4 disciplines, something remarkable happens. You start experiencing what the Stoics called ataraxia, a profound tranquility that comes not from having everything go your way, but from being in harmony with the fundamental nature of existence. This doesn't mean becoming passive or fatalistic. Marcus was one of the most active and engaged leaders in history. It means becoming incredibly strategic about where you invest your mental and emotional energy. You stop wasting energy fighting things you can't change, which gives you tremendous power to influence the things you can change. Living in harmony with nature also means recognizing your role in the larger human community. The Stoics believed that we're all part of what they called the cosmopolites, citizens of the world. Your individual virtue contributes to the common good, and the common good supports your individual flourishing. This is why Stoic virtue always includes justice, treating others fairly and contributing positively to society. It's not about becoming so internally focused that you ignore the world around you. It's about becoming so grounded in your own character that you can engage with the world more effectively and generously. When you live this way, you discover something incredible. External circumstances have much less power over your peace of mind, which paradoxically makes you much more effective in improving your external circumstances. Part 5. The Legacy of Virtue, Building an Unshakable Life. We've covered a lot of ground today, so let's bring it all together with the most important question. How does this actually transform your daily life? When you truly understand that virtue is the ultimate good, that your character is the only thing that determines your worth and happiness, everything changes. You stop being at the mercy of circumstances, other people's opinions, market fluctuations, or social media metrics. You develop what the Stoics called the citadel of the self, an inner fortress that external events cannot breach. But here's what's really beautiful about this philosophy. It's not about becoming isolated or indifferent. When you're no longer desperate for external validation or terrified of external loss, you actually become more present, more generous, and more genuinely connected to others. Let me paint you a picture of what this looks like in practice. Imagine waking up each morning with a sense of purpose that doesn't depend on your circumstances. Whether you're having a great day or facing challenges, you know exactly what your mission is: to practice wisdom, justice, courage, and temperance in whatever situations arise. Imagine being in a difficult conversation with someone. Maybe they're angry or unreasonable, and instead of getting defensive or aggressive, you see it as an opportunity to practice patience and understanding. You respond from your values rather than your emotions, which often transforms the entire dynamic. Imagine facing a setback in your career, your health, or your relationships. And instead of falling into despair or blame, you immediately start asking, what can I learn from this? How can this make me stronger? What virtues can I practice in this situation? Imagine having such a clear sense of your own worth, based on your character rather than your achievements, that you're free to take risks, try new things, and be authentically yourself without constantly worrying about judgment or failure. This isn't fantasy. This is how thousands of people are already living, using these ancient principles in modern contexts. The 3 levels of Stoic transformation. Level 1, emergency philosophy. You use Stoic techniques when you're stressed, upset, or facing challenges. This alone can dramatically improve your quality of life and decision-making. Level 2, daily practice. You incorporate Stoic exercises into your regular routine. Morning reflection, evening review, voluntary discomfort, role model questions. Your character starts to strengthen noticeably. Level 3, way of life. Stoicism becomes your default mode of operating. You naturally respond to situations with virtue. You see challenges as opportunities, and you experience that deep tranquility that comes from living in alignment with your highest values. Most people start at level 1 and gradually progress. The key is consistency, not perfection. Marcus Aurelius himself struggled with these principles. His meditations are essentially his personal reminders to himself about how to live virtuously. He didn't have it all figured out. He just kept practicing. Your legacy starts today. Here's something Marcus understood that many of us forget. Every action you take is either building or eroding the person you're becoming. Every response to frustration, every choice about how to treat others, every decision about what to pursue or avoid, these are all votes for the kind of person you want to be. The Romans had a concept called memento mori. Remember, you will die. This wasn't morbid, it was motivating. It reminded them that time is finite and precious, so it should be used wisely. Marcus regularly reflected on impermanence, not to become depressed, but to stay focused on what truly matters. What kind of legacy do you want to leave? Not just in terms of achievements or possessions, but in terms of the kind of person you became and the positive impact you had on others. The beautiful thing about virtue is that it creates compound interest. Every act of wisdom makes the next wise decision easier. Every courageous choice builds your courage muscle. Every moment of practicing justice strengthens your commitment to fairness. Every exercise in temperance increases your self-discipline. Starting your Stoic journey today. If you're inspired to begin implementing these ideas, here's my recommendation. Start small, but start today. Choose one Stoic practice from what we've discussed and commit to it for the next week. Maybe it's the evening reflection. How did I practice virtue today? Maybe it's the morning question. How would my role model handle today's challenges? Maybe it's simply pausing before reacting to ask, is this in my control or outside my control? Remember, you have the power to control your mind, even when you cannot control external events. Your life is shaped by your thoughts, your choices, and your character. And that, dear listeners, is the true power of Stoic philosophy. As Marcus Aurelius wrote, confine yourself to the present, not because the future doesn't matter, but because the present moment is where virtue is practiced and character is built. The path of virtue isn't always easy, but it's always worth it. And every step you take makes you stronger, wiser, and more capable of contributing positively to the world around you. Closing. Thank you so much for joining me today on this deep dive into Stoic philosophy and the transformative power of virtue. If today's discussion resonated with you and sparked something inside you to live with greater purpose and resilience, I'd be incredibly grateful if you could take just 30 seconds to hit that subscribe button. Your support means the world to me and helps us bring these life-changing ideas to more people who need them. And here's the thing, when you share wisdom like this, you're not just helping the podcast grow, you're participating in a chain of positive influence that can literally change lives. I'd love to hear from you in the comments below. Which Stoic principle spoke to you most today? What's one practice you're going to try this week? Or maybe you have a question about how to apply these ideas to a specific challenge in your life. Your engagement helps create a community of people committed to living with virtue and wisdom. If you found value in this episode, please consider sharing it with someone who might benefit. A friend going through a tough time, a family member looking for direction, or a colleague who's passionate about personal development. Sometimes the right message at the right time can completely shift someone's perspective and trajectory. Don't forget to hit that like button if this content was helpful, and consider leaving a positive review. It really does make a difference in helping others discover these transformative ideas. Next week, we're diving into the Stoic art of negative visualization, how imagining loss creates gratitude and resilience. Another powerful practice that Marcus Aurelius used daily to maintain perspective and appreciate what he had while preparing for what he might lose. Until then, remember, you have the power to control your mind, not external events. Live with virtue, act with wisdom, and let your character be your greatest achievement. This has been Think Like a Roman Emperor. I'm your host, and I'll see you next week for another journey into ancient wisdom for modern living. Stay strong, stay virtuous, and remember, every moment is an opportunity to practice excellence.